She said there's only one bed, and then moved closer. Alex's hands moved swiftly, fingers dancing over buttons and switches, trying to stabilize the ship. The shuttle groaned like a wounded beast, and for a moment, Alex feared it would tear apart before they even reached the ground. "We're going down," Alex shouted over the noise. The words barely registered as the shuttle slammed onto the surface, skidding across the rocky plain before finally stopping with a bone-jarring jolt. Silence followed, except for the occasional hiss of escaping air and the soft beeping of emergency systems. Alex unbuckled, wincing as the muscles protested. He blinked against the dust-filled cabin, surveying the damage. The shuttle was scratched, dented, and some panels were loose, but it hadn't broken completely. A soft beep indicated a life sign nearby. Alex's eyes followed it to the back of the shuttle, where Lyra, the xenobiologist, was sitting up slowly. She brushed dust from her violet-scaled skin and glimmering eyes, a mixture of irritation and relief on her face. "You're alive," Alex said, half smiling. He stood, checking the rest of the shuttle. The other crew members had already begun crawling out, some limping, some shaken, but mostly unharmed. "We need shelter," Lyra said in her melodic voice. "The storm is coming and the atmosphere it is thin, not safe for long outside." Alex nodded. He had noticed the heavy, dust-laden winds already kicking up beyond the shuttle's wreckage. The small mountain ridge in the distance offered some protection. "Let's move fast. One shelter, one chance to survive till the storm passes." They gathered what supplies they could carry and started toward the rocky ridge. Alex helped Lyra over jagged rocks, noticing how graceful she was despite her alien anatomy. She had 6 limbs, but used them with careful precision, almost dancing over the terrain. When they reached the cave-like shelter carved into the ridge, relief washed over Alex. The interior was dry, spacious enough for all 5 of them, with rough walls that offered protection from the storm outside. But there was a problem. One bed, large and soft, made from emergency sleeping materials and alien padding, dominated the center of the shelter. The rest of the floor was bare, hard stone. Lyra's voice cut through the air, hesitant. She pointed at the bed. "There is only one, for sleeping." "5 crew, how?" Alex chuckled nervously. "We'll figure it out. Some will take the floor, some will rotate." Lyra tilted her head. Her glimmering eyes studied him, curiosity and something else, something Alex didn't recognize reflecting in them. "Or 2 of us share," she suggested, her tone careful, almost shy. Alex froze. He blinked, trying to read her words. Humans and aliens alike had awkward situations, but this one felt different. You mean now?" Or he waved toward the rest of the crew, who were unpacking supplies and checking the shelter. "I mean, yes," she said, stepping closer. Her eyes didn't leave his face. "It is practical safety, heat, companionship." Alex swallowed. His mind raced. Practical safety, heat. Companionship. Those words made sense logically, but the way Lyra said them with her glowing eyes just a few feet away made his heart rate accelerate. "All right," he said, trying to sound casual though his voice cracked slightly. "We can share. Just space, that's all. Don't get any ideas." Lyra's expression flickered between amusement and confusion. "Ideas? Alex, we are not humans. We do not interpret physical proximity in that manner necessarily." Alex laughed nervously. "Right, of course." He grabbed a blanket and threw it across the bed, trying to establish some sort of boundary. Lyra watched, her head tilted in curiosity, then slowly sat down on the edge of the bed, leaving a wide gap between them. Alex sat on the other side, keeping his knees tucked slightly toward himself, a small, instinctive shield. Minutes passed. The wind outside howled, rattling the stone walls. The shelter was small but warm compared to the storm outside. Alex tried to focus on unpacking supplies, organizing food rations, and checking their emergency comms. Lyra, meanwhile, seemed preoccupied with the bed's structure, the material, and the way heat radiated from it. You humans, you sleep so close together sometimes, she said suddenly, her eyes flicking toward him. Yeah, sometimes, Alex replied, feeling awkward. It's comfortable, practical, saves space, keeps you warm. Lyra nodded slowly, as if absorbing a complicated piece of data. Then she moved slightly closer. Not a lot, just a fraction, but it was enough that Alex could feel her presence distinctly. I hope this is acceptable, she said. Her voice had softened. I do not wish to cause discomfort. Alex shook his head quickly. No, no discomfort. It's fine, totally fine. He could feel his face warming and cursed himself internally. Humans often found themselves in strange situations, yes, but this one felt different. Hours passed. The storm outside grew violent, making the shelter shake. Thunder-like booms echoed from the cliffs, and dust rattled against the walls. Alex tried to keep his mind on practical things, making sure Lyra was safe, checking the emergency lights, thinking about the next steps for repairs. But Lyra's quiet presence on the bed, her subtle movements, her occasional glances, made it impossible to focus entirely on survival alone. You humans are strange, she said softly, finally breaking the silence. You are brave, curious, and comforting, even to strangers. Alex paused, surprised. He hadn't expected such observation and certainly not such sincerity from an alien. I guess we try. We like to help, protect, connect. It's important. Lyra tilted her head, considering his words. You are, unlike others I have studied. Humans are unpredictable but admirable. Alex smiled, though he felt the warmth in his chest grow. Thanks. That means a lot. Another long silence followed, only the wind outside and the subtle hum of the emergency generator filling the air. Then, without thinking, Lyra shifted closer again, her shoulder brushing lightly against his. Alex tensed, unsure what to do, but she didn't recoil, didn't apologize. Instead, she simply looked at him, eyes gentle but curious. It is necessary, she said simply, for warmth, for safety, for understanding. Alex let out a shaky breath. Yeah, necessary, he agreed. Inwardly, he thought about the strange way humans often bond, through small touches, shared danger, and simple presence. Somehow he realized that Lyra, despite being alien, was engaging in the same subtle connection humans prized. The hours of the storm passed slowly. Alex and Lyra didn't talk much after that, but neither moved away. The bed, which had seemed impossibly small and awkward, became a quiet place of safety, warmth, and subtle companionship. As Alex drifted to sleep, he realized something surprising. He wasn't just thinking about surviving the storm. He was thinking about Lyra, about her curiosity, her trust, and her presence. The storm outside might rage, the planet might be dangerous, but here in this small shelter, humans, and perhaps human traits, had created a bridge between species. He felt a strange pride, the kind humans felt when they acted bravely or cleverly. Only this time it wasn't about technology or survival, it was about connection, about being human, about showing that even in the far reaches of the galaxy, human courage, curiosity, and empathy could shine. And as Lyra rested her head slightly closer, Alex allowed himself a small, amused smile. The night was long, the storm was fierce, but in this moment humans were special. And perhaps, just perhaps, this alien was beginning to understand that too. The storm outside had not eased by midnight. The howling wind battered the rocky shelter, rattling the walls and making the thin lights flicker. Dust and sand pressed against the small entrance, leaving the shelter dim and silent except for the hum of the emergency generator. Alex lay on one side of the bed, staring at the ceiling. The soft alien padding beneath him felt strange but comfortable. He could sense Lyra nearby, though she had shifted slightly during the night. Every so often he caught a glimmer of her eyes in the dim light, watching him as if reading his thoughts. Finally, unable to sleep, Alex sat up. The silence, though calm, was heavier than the storm itself. He looked at Lyra, who had turned to face the wall, yet he could feel her attention on him. "You're awake," she said softly, her voice cutting through the low hum of the generator. "Yeah," Alex admitted, stretching his legs. "Couldn't sleep. Storm's a little too loud, I guess." Lyra tilted her head. "You humans, you seem comfortable in dangerous situations, yet also restless, curious." Alex chuckled softly. "Curiosity helps us survive. It gets us out of sticky situations. Sometimes it gets us into worse ones too." Lyra studied him. "And bravery?" she asked after a pause. "I have observed humans. You do strange things, risk life for others or for understanding. Why?" Alex thought for a moment. "We value connection, protecting others. It's not just instinct. It's something deeper. Pride, maybe, responsibility, maybe even hope," he shrugged. "We aren't perfect, but we try." Lyra's eyes glimmered in the dim light. "Humans are unlike many species I have studied. You show courage in unexpected ways, and yet you are gentle, even with strangers." Alex looked down at the bed. "Well, we have to survive together, don't we? Makes sense to treat each other carefully." For a long moment neither spoke. Outside, the storm raged like an angry beast, but inside the shelter, a quiet understanding grew between them. Then Lyra shifted slightly, almost imperceptibly, moving closer. Alex noticed, but he didn't move away. Somehow he understood that she wasn't trying to challenge him. She was simply seeking comfort, connection, and perhaps understanding. Lyra began hesitantly. "Alex, I am unfamiliar with human intimacy. Yet this closeness, it feels necessary." Alex smiled gently, trying to keep his voice steady. "I get it. We humans, we share warmth, company, comfort. It helps in storms and in life." There was a long pause. The wind outside howled, echoing like distant thunder. Then, as if testing boundaries, Lyra moved slightly again, letting her arm brush against his. Alex froze, then laughed softly. "All right, you win. Closeness acknowledged." Lyra's eyes glimmered with amusement. "I am learning." The conversation that followed was hesitant at first. They spoke of the storm, the planet's strange atmosphere, and the shuttle's damage. But slowly, the topics became more personal. Lyra spoke of her homeworld, a place of purple oceans and floating forests, where species lived in symbiosis and emotional connection was valued over physical confrontation. Alex listened, fascinated. "That sounds amazing. We humans, we fight a lot, but we try to create bonds. Family, friends, crews, connections are what we live for." "I see," Lyra said softly. "Your species values courage but also warmth. I did not expect this combination. Unpredictable yet admirable," Alex grinned. "We get that a lot, sometimes good, sometimes confusing." Lyra tilted her head again, studying him. "Confusing, yes, but also effective. I feel safer with you nearby. Even though I am trained to withstand stress, danger." She trailed off, glancing at him briefly, then back at the dim wall. Alex swallowed, feeling a strange warmth in his chest. Humans were known across galaxies for their bravery, curiosity, and ingenuity. But this emotional connection, even with an alien species, felt like another layer of what made humans special. "Thanks," he said quietly. "I feel safer too. You make sense of things differently, and it's kind of nice." Lyra's eyes glimmered faintly. "Kind, nice, unusual descriptors for safety, yet accurate." They both laughed softly, the sound mingling with the hum of the generator and the storm outside. It was small, almost childish, but it broke the tension in the shelter. For the first time that night, the danger outside felt distant. Hours passed. The storm showed no sign of ending, but inside, a different storm brewed, a storm of curiosity, trust, and subtle connection. Alex and Lyra shared stories of their pasts. Alex spoke of Earth, the countless stars humans had reached, and the small victories of survival and exploration. Lyra shared her observations of other species, the way her kind studied, analyzed, and connected without physical touch. "You humans," Lyra said at one point, "you risk yourselves for unknowns and still you smile, laugh, even in danger." Alex shrugged, smiling. "It's part of survival, And part of what makes life worth it, if we can laugh even just a little, we feel stronger, we feel alive. Lyra studied him, her glowing eyes reflecting the dim light. Alive, yes, your species full of contradictions, yet inspiring. You combine risk, intelligence, and emotion in ways few can match. Alex felt his heart race. He had faced dangerous situations before, storms, alien predators, collapsing ships. But this quiet, subtle interaction, this emotional bravery, felt as intense as any battle. Humans were unique, yes, but it was moments like this that showed why. Then, as if drawn by instinct, Lyra moved slightly closer once more. Their arms brushed lightly, and Alex didn't pull away. He noticed her breathing, steady but uneven, a sign of alien physiology adapting to shared space. "It is unusual," Lyra said softly. For us to be this close, yet not in conflict," Alex smiled. "Humans call it trust, comfort, connection. It's hard to explain, but it works." Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. "Trust, comfort, connection, humans are remarkable." Alex laughed quietly, shaking his head. "We try. Mostly we just survive, but sometimes we manage more than that." A lull followed. They didn't speak for a while, simply listening to the storm outside, feeling the subtle warmth and rhythm of shared space. It was peaceful. Dangerous outside, yes, but inside there was safety, curiosity, and growing respect. Then Lyra shifted her gaze to Alex, her violet eyes bright in the dim light. "Alex, I do not fully understand humans, yet I wish to understand, to know why you are as you are." Alex smiled gently. "Maybe that's the best part. You learn by being close, paying attention, surviving together. And maybe you're starting to see what humans are capable of." She nodded slowly. "I believe I am." The hours slipped by unnoticed. Outside, the storm raged with relentless energy, but inside, Alex and Lyra found a strange calm. Shared stories, laughter, small touches, and quiet companionship became the threads of a subtle bridge between species. For Alex, the night was not just about surviving the storm. It was about realizing the quiet power of being human, the courage to connect, to share warmth, and to offer comfort even in the darkest hours. For Lyra, it was a revelation. Humans were strange, unpredictable, and yet remarkable. Brave not only in battle or exploration, but in the small acts of trust and connection. By the time the first light of dawn filtered through the shelter, the storm had not yet ended, but something had changed. The distance between human and alien, between curiosity and understanding, had shrunk. Lyra no longer seemed unsure. Alex no longer felt awkward. In the quiet, dimly lit shelter, two beings from different worlds had found common ground, through shared danger, quiet humor, and subtle human courage. Alex glanced at her, a small smile forming. "Morning, Lyra. Storm's still going strong, but we survived another night." Lyra returned the smile, small but genuine. "Yes, we did, and I understand a little more about humans. You are indeed special." Alex chuckled softly. "Thanks. I think you might be special too in your own alien way." They both laughed, the sound mingling with the storm outside. And though the planet remained harsh, dangerous, and uncertain, inside that small shelter, a human and an alien shared warmth, understanding, and a growing bond, one that neither storm nor distance could easily break. By midday, the storm outside had grown fiercer. Dust and small rocks lashed against the shelter entrance, making the walls tremble. The dim emergency lights flickered in response to the electrical strain, casting long shadows across the rough stone interior. Inside, Alex and Lyra moved cautiously, assessing the shelter for damage. The small cave had survived the initial blast, but the winds threatened to erode its protective walls. A large piece of loose rock teetered dangerously near the entrance, and Alex knew it could fall if the wind's force increased. "We need to reinforce this wall," Alex said, scanning the rubble. "Otherwise, it might collapse if the wind keeps pounding." Lyra nodded. "Agreed." I can assist with structural support and stabilization techniques. Alex grinned. Good, teamwork. Together they set to work. Using spare shuttle panels, emergency support beams, and whatever rocks they could wedge safely, they began to reinforce the walls. Alex directed the effort, pulling and adjusting panels with surprising agility. Lyra, despite her alien anatomy, followed his instructions with precision. Her 6 limbs moved in harmony, lifting heavy materials and positioning them exactly where needed. Humans are fascinating, she said as she worked. You improvise constantly, adapt to changing conditions without hesitation. Alex wiped sweat from his forehead. We have to. If we freeze in a dangerous situation, we don't survive. Simple as that. As they worked, their proximity on the narrow shelter floor forced a kind of awkward closeness. At one point, Lyra brushed against his shoulder while adjusting a support beam. Alex froze, then laughed softly. Careful, I almost lost my balance. Lyra's eyes glimmered faintly. I am careful, your reaction amusing. Alex shook his head, chuckling. Amusing, huh? That's one way to put it. They continued their work, their movements synchronized despite occasional humor and teasing. For Alex, the practical task of survival had taken on a different dimension. Each shared effort, each glance and light touch, strengthened not just the shelter but their bond. After several hours, the shelter was stable. The loose rock had been secured and the walls reinforced with panels and wedged stones. Both Alex and Lyra stood back, breathing heavily, covered in dust and sweat. Not perfect, but it will hold, Alex said, looking at their handiwork. We survived this round. Lyra nodded. Indeed, human ingenuity impressive. Her eyes flicked toward him, and Alex noticed the faintest smile on her face. As the afternoon wore on, the storm showed no sign of easing. The shelter remained the only safe place, and the cramped conditions forced Alex and Lyra into the small bed once more. At first, they tried to maintain distance, but the narrow space and shared exhaustion made it impossible. Alex, Lyra said softly, her voice breaking the silence. This closeness, it is uncomfortable and yet necessary. Alex laughed quietly, shaking his head. Yeah, I get it. It's kind of inevitable, isn't it? Lyra's glowing eyes met his. I wish to understand humans fully. You demonstrate courage in thought and action and in connection. Alex's heart raced. Connection, huh? You mean trust, warmth, comfort, those things? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, I sense these traits and they are remarkable. Even necessary for survival and understanding. For a long moment, they simply lay side by side, neither speaking. Outside, the storm roared, but inside, an unspoken bond grew. Alex thought about the countless times humans had survived impossible situations with courage, curiosity, and emotional intelligence. Lyra's presence made him realize that those qualities were not just physical or intellectual. They were deeply personal, even universal. Then, as if drawn by instinct, Lyra moved closer. This time the movement was deliberate. Her arm brushed against his chest and Alex did not pull away. He felt a strange warmth, not just physical but emotional. It is comforting, Lyra admitted softly. Even for me, an alien, I feel safe with you nearby, Alex smiled. You're not alone. Humans, we share warmth, company, hope. It helps even in the worst situations. Lyra tilted her head, studying him carefully. Hope, yes. Humans always find hope, even in storms, in danger, in uncertainty. Alex nodded, thinking of all the times humans had survived against impossible odds, relied on intuition, creativity, and empathy to get through disasters. That's us. We don't always succeed, but we try. And we connect. That's what keeps us going. The night drew on and the storm outside showed no mercy, but inside the shelter their conversation deepened. Lyra shared stories of her homeworld, the floating forests, bioluminescent seas, and complex social systems built on empathy and emotional bonds rather than force. Alex shared stories of Earth, humanity's space exploration, the small victories of survival, and the bonds that held crews together in danger. "You humans," Lyra said quietly, "you are strange, brave, curious, compassionate, and sometimes reckless, yet admirable." Alex laughed softly. "Strange, huh? Yeah, probably. But we've survived this long, haven't we?" "Yes, survived and thrived," Lyra replied. "Your species capable of great understanding and courage, even in the smallest actions." They fell silent again, listening to the wind outside. Then Lyra shifted slightly, letting her shoulder press gently against Alex's. He felt a spark, not just from proximity, but from the recognition of shared courage and trust. "You humans," she murmured. "You inspire even those outside your species." Alex chuckled softly, brushing some dust from his sleeve. "Well, we try. Mostly it's just survival, but if we inspire someone, that's a bonus." Lyra tilted her head, studying him. "A bonus, yes. But humans seem to turn survival into something more meaningful." Alex nodded. "It is. Connection, curiosity, hope, humor, courage, it all makes life richer. Even in storms, even in danger." For the first time, Lyra seemed to relax fully, letting herself lean into the warmth of the shared bed. Alex didn't pull away. He realized that humans were remarkable not just for their inventions, bravery, or exploration, but for their ability to connect, comfort, and inspire, even in the farthest reaches of space. The night passed slowly, with occasional conversation, shared laughter, and quiet companionship. Outside, the storm continued its relentless assault, but inside, the shelter became a haven. Alex and Lyra, human and alien, found comfort in each other's presence, a small bridge between species built on trust, courage, and subtle warmth. By the time the first faint light of dawn began to filter into the shelter, the storm showed no signs of stopping. But something had changed. The closeness on the bed was no longer awkward. Their conversations had created understanding, curiosity had turned into trust, and subtle touches had become natural. Alex looked at Lyra and smiled. "We survived the night. Again." "Yes," she replied softly. "And I understand humans a little more. You are indeed remarkable." Alex chuckled. "Remarkable, huh? I'll take it. You're pretty impressive yourself, Lyra. Adaptable, clever, and curious. All the right traits for survival." Lyra tilted her head, a faint smile playing on her lips. "Curiosity, yes. Necessary for understanding humans. And now I feel a connection that I cannot ignore." Alex nodded, understanding completely. That connection, born from shared danger, humor, warmth, and quiet bravery, was something humans had always relied on. They had survived countless storms, conflicts, and unknown worlds because they could connect, adapt, and trust, even when the odds were against them. And now in this small, dimly lit shelter on a distant, storm-tossed planet, that human strength, emotional, intellectual, and brave, was shining clearly. Not in weapons, not in technology, but in simple, human courage and connection. Outside, the storm raged, wild and merciless. Inside, a human and an alien shared warmth, stories, laughter, and trust. A bond had formed, a spark of understanding that neither distance nor danger could easily break. Alex glanced at Lyra, a small, amused smile on his face. "You think the storm will ever end?" Lyra looked out at the shifting sands and swirling winds. "Perhaps, but it does not matter. We endure together." Alex nodded. "Together." In that moment, human bravery, curiosity, and subtle emotional courage had forged a connection that might survive anything: storm, danger, or distance. And though neither of them fully realized it yet, the events of this night would shape their understanding of each other and of humans for a long time to come. By dawn, the storm had lessened, though the wind still whipped fiercely across the rocky plains. Dust and sand swirled around the shelter entrance, but inside, Alex and Lyra had endured the night. The small cave, reinforced with shuttle panels and rocks, had held firm, a testament to their combined effort. Alex stretched, rubbing his tired arms and legs. He glanced at Lyra, who was already awake, sitting on the edge of the bed with her 6 limbs folded neatly. Her violet eyes glimmered softly in the dim light, reflecting exhaustion but also calm. "Morning," Alex said with a tired grin. "Looks like we survived another night." "Yes," Lyra replied quietly, "and I understand a little more about humans." Alex raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Oh, enlighten me." Lyra tilted her head thoughtfully. "Your species, brave, curious, resilient, and empathetic. You connect, even in danger, even with strangers." "That is remarkable," Alex smiled. "Thanks, that's what we try to do. Humans survive because we adapt and because we care a little more than most expect." They began their morning routine. Alex checked the shelter for any damage, while Lyra organized supplies and examined the shuttle panels. The storm outside had made the landscape nearly unrecognizable, but the essentials for survival were intact. "We need to find the crew," Alex said, glancing at the faint light outside. "They should be back soon." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but first rest, even minimal. You need energy to help others." Alex laughed softly. "Yeah, you sound just like a human nurse giving orders." She tilted her head, curious. "Human nurse?" Alex smirked. "Someone who cares, makes sure people survive, and nags a little while doing it. You're doing well, actually." Lyra's small smile grew, and Alex noticed the warmth in her expression. Their bond, formed through survival, trust, and subtle companionship, had deepened overnight. Hours later, the distant hum of engines reached them. Alex's heart leapt. He ran to the shelter entrance, peering out at the rocky plains. A small shuttle, part of their crew, was approaching, kicking up dust as it landed carefully. "Alex, Lyra," called a voice from the landing shuttle. "We found the spare parts, and are you okay?" Alex waved, a huge grin on his face. "Yeah, we're fine. Just a little storm-stressed." Lyra followed, her 6 limbs moving gracefully across the cave entrance. "We survived," she said simply, "thanks to cooperation and ingenuity." The rest of the crew arrived, their faces a mix of relief and exhaustion. They quickly assessed the shelter and the damage. Alex and Lyra explained their night, the storm, the reinforcement of the walls, and the shared space on the bed. One of the crew, a human medic, raised an eyebrow. "Shared the bed? How did you manage that?" Alex shrugged, smiling wryly. "Let's just say we survived in the human way." Lyra added softly, "It was necessary for warmth, safety, and understanding." The crew exchanged glances, some laughing, some shaking their heads in disbelief. Alex chuckled. "Humans, we adapt." As they prepared to leave the planet, Lyra paused, glancing back at the small shelter. "Alex, I appreciate what I have learned from you, from humans, from this experience. Your species, remarkable in courage, curiosity, and emotional understanding." Alex felt a surge of pride. Humans were celebrated across the galaxy for bravery, intelligence, and ingenuity, but Lyra's words captured something deeper. Humans were special not just because they survived. They connected, comforted, and inspired, even in the harshest conditions. "You're welcome," Alex said softly. "And I learned something too, about your species, about empathy, observation, and trust. Maybe humans aren't the only remarkable ones." Lyra's eyes glimmered. "Perhaps together we can demonstrate what is possible between species." The crew loaded the shuttle, securing the spare parts and double-checking equipment. Alex and Lyra remained close, naturally gravitating toward one another in the cramped shuttle cabin. Their shared experience had created trust, warmth, and a quiet understanding that didn't need words. As the shuttle lifted off, leaving the storm behind, Alex glanced at Lyra. "So, next mission, if there's only one bed again, I guess we know how to handle it." Lyra's violet eyes glimmered mischievously. "Yes, we are prepared. And I will not be reluctant." Alex laughed, a light, easy sound that filled the cabin. "Good. Humans, we always adapt. even to aliens who are clever, curious, and remarkably persistent. Lyra tilted her head, smiling faintly. You humans inspire in subtle ways and courageous ways, Alex. I am grateful for this experience. Alex felt a warmth spreading through him, not from proximity but from recognition. Humans had survived countless storms, wars, and disasters, not just through technology or strategy, but through courage, empathy, and connection. Lyra's words reinforced what he already knew. Being human meant more than surviving. It meant understanding, comforting, and inspiring. Hours passed as the shuttle traveled back to the main base. Outside, the galaxy stretched in silent wonder. Stars glittered against the black void, distant worlds spinning in their orbits. Alex and Lyra watched quietly, side by side, reflecting on what had passed. You humans, Lyra said softly, breaking the silence. Even when facing danger, uncertainty, or discomfort, you maintain hope, connection, and courage. It is remarkable. Alex smiled gently. That's what we try to do, and sometimes we succeed. You succeed, Lyra repeated, her voice gentle, and teach others about trust and understanding. Alex looked at her, a playful grin forming. Well, you might have learned a few human lessons yourself. Courage, curiosity, and maybe warmth. Lyra's faint smile widened. Perhaps, yes, and I wish to continue learning. The shuttle hummed steadily, carrying them away from the storm-tossed planet. Alex leaned back, reflecting on the last day and night. He thought about the storm, the shelter, and the shared bed. And he realized something that made him smile. Humans weren't just special because they survived or explored. They were special because they connected, even when it was uncomfortable, uncertain, or strange. And maybe, just maybe, Lyra had discovered that too. As the base came into view, the crew prepared to land. Alex glanced at Lyra one last time. Ready? He asked. She nodded. Yes, ready, and perhaps eager for the next adventure. Alex laughed softly. Good. Humans, we always look forward even after the toughest storms. The shuttle touched down smoothly, engines hissing as the crew began unloading. Alex and Lyra stepped out together, their presence a quiet testament to teamwork, courage, and trust. The small storm-scarred planet was behind them, but the bond they had formed would remain, a symbol of what humans could teach the galaxy: bravery, curiosity, emotional courage, and the ability to inspire and connect across worlds. As they walked toward the base, Lyra glanced at Alex with a faint smirk. Next time, if there is only one bed, Alex grinned, shaking his head. Yeah, I'm sure there will be, and we'll handle it the human way. Lyra's laughter, soft and melodic, echoed beside him. Alex felt a familiar warmth, proof that humans could survive anything, inspire anyone, and leave a mark even in the farthest reaches of the galaxy. The sun rose higher, casting its light on the crew returning to safety, and in that light Alex knew the truth. Being human wasn't just about survival. It was about courage, connection, and hope. And in the heart of an alien storm, he had shown it and shared it with someone from another world. And maybe, just maybe, that was the most remarkable thing of all.